Hello and welcome to another DAWNCast. I am Di Lee, and today we've got Carl Gough. I hope I pronounce it right, Carl, CEO and founder of meetmagic, joining us. Hello and welcome.
Hello, Di, and can I just say your music is pretty cool. Your
Thank
intro.
you. It is, yes. We're trying to keep uplift, people's spirit when they come on DAWNCast to share their amazing, and social entrepreneur, social impact journey with us. So thank you for agreeing to come on board. So tell us, what is Meet Magic? What do you do? What kind of magical, work do you do around that business?
Well, it's been going for about 3 years now, 3.5 years. It started as a way of disrupting how charities raise funds. And we disrupt it through business meetings and corporate connections. So what we do is pretty simple. We curate business meetings between executives and problem solvers from global technology companies like Google and Dell and so on. So those Googles and Dells and all the big technology companies, they're our members, and they get instant access to corporate business leaders, CEOs, CIOs, to gain access, to conversations, basically. So we have probably around about 600 executives who have donated 45 minutes, and then our members can get access to those execs. And we
Right.
donate, 70% of that to charity.
Wow. So how does it work? So basically, so how do you sell that service of yours where you want businesses or individuals who want access to senior executives' time?
Yep.
And then is that how it works?
It is. So all of my clients have a marketing budget, as do most companies, and they're spending that marketing budget on conferences, on roundtables. I call it snouts in the trough, Di, because often it's just to go and getting drunk and having some lunch, and then these conversations disappear and don't go anywhere. So our vendors and members use their marketing dollars, and then we take those marketing dollars and we give 70% of it to a charity. In this particular case, we've chosen the Starlight Children Foundation. So basically the charities. It's an alternative donation stream for them. It's an alternative revenue stream, and we've basically made it possible by repurposing marketing budgets that are being used currently for these conferences, these roundtables, and so on.
So what made you get into that space in the first place?
Oh, it made me. I think so. This is serendipity at its best. So I've been in the technology space for the past 20 years. So I know the problems that are being faced by salespeople trying to get time with business leaders. I've been involved with a lot of my friends are executives, the CEOs and CIOs. So I know the problems that they face being over targeted by people trying to sell to them. And I just know that if we can, curate a meeting that's so much more valuable, that actually that's the executive's time being used much more effectively. So, about 3 years ago, I set up Meet Magic because, my past 20 years in sales I saw this problem that existed. And I was fundraising for a charity called Feel the Magic, and Feel the Magic is helping kids deal with grief. And I discovered how hard it was for charities to keep raising money, just a constant battle. So
Yeah.
I know that every charity right now is looking for a sustainable fundraising model. And what we've created is exactly that. It's a sustainable fundraising model by using something that happens every single day, which is a business meeting.
Mm. So what was it what was that fuel? So, what gave you fuel to do that? Sure, that you've identified a problem and you wanted to solve that, but was there something that happened that really made you believe that it's this one-on-one connection with senior executives that could actually change or transform decision making or whatever, rather than going to big conferences and having these big talk fest type thing?
You just said it right there, talk fest. That's all they are. They don't really go anywhere. And I've spent many a time standing at a conference for 3 days, scanning badges, trying to talk to people, and for nothing to occur afterwards. So if you think about the cost of that, let's say $30,000 gets spent on a conference where you stand there for 3 days. The process that happens is they scan badges, they take those badges, email addresses back to the office, and they send emails out and try and get meetings. That process is completely broken. And what we do is we just basically make that connection. We charge $1,000 per meeting, and we give 700 of that to Starlight. So I think this month we've done, I think, 55 meetings. So there's 55 times $700 that's going to Starlight. This year we've given Starlight over $300,000 so far, and there's more to come. So, but the whole thing started by, like I mentioned, me getting involved in the charity space and discovering how hard it was. But it was also my daughter and I think it was 2016, we raised a few $1,000s ourselves and brought lots of disadvantaged kids from Claymore, which was in near Campbelltown. We brought them into Bondi for a day of inspiration, and we tried to inspire 300 kids from the school there to have a go, and that really was, I think, the turning point where I said, Mike, my life is going to have to be about giving back and doing something that's purposeful, and this really is just a combination of everything that I'm really good at. So, Di, one of the things that I say to people when they say, how do you find your purpose? Is I always say, write down 5 things that you're really good at and 5 things that you really love. Somewhere in there and amongst that is your purpose. And that's exactly what I've done. There's 5 things that I'm really good at: talking, clearly, opening doors and connecting people. I'm really good at that. But one of the things that I'm really passionate about, and sometimes you have this feeling as a child that you're destined to do certain things. I've always felt that I was destined to help millions of people, and I think this is just a combination of that playing out now.
I mean, as you mentioned, that finding 5 things that you're good at and finding 5 things that you love. What are the 5 things that you love? Obviously, because I would gather those 5 things, one of them or all of them, is what drives you. Like what drives you as a human being, not just as a businessman, but as a human being.
Absolutely. And, I think if you look at all the human needs in the world, for me, the biggest one is contribution. Whatever you're contributing back, it's not even contributing back. It's contribution is a human need. We need that. We need to feel as though we're making a difference. And that really, family and contribution are really 2 of my big values. And I always felt that contribution piece was critical. And when you found something that's purposeful that you're going to stick with when it doesn't work, and you keep going, because it's starting something new and creating something new is not easy. It's not for everybody. And I think when it gets really hard, that's when I think most startups and companies fail, because they just quit. People give up. And so it got to a point I always knew there was one moment about 2 years ago. We were down to, I think, $550 in the bank. And one meeting had just happened, and it was with Kathmandu, the retailer, and a company called Skyfi. And that $500, back then it was $1,000 for a meeting, and we gave 500 to charity. But that $500 was going to the Himalayan Foundation. And I called the Himalayan Foundation and said, what will this $500 do? And they said, $500 to us will pay for 3 girls to go to school for the entire year, and it'll pay for their books and their uniform. And in that moment, Di, when I tell you I was economically the worst I've ever been in my entire life, broke, couldn't pay my bills, couldn't pay my rent, couldn't pay my girls' school fees, my daughter, I'm a single dad, so everything was just, I started crying walking up the hill here. And I knew at that point in time, this is what I have to do, because economically, the worst I've ever been in my entire life, but spiritually, the richest I've ever felt, ever. And that was a massive thing for me, where I really knew back then that was it. This is something I have to stick with. And, when you push through and keep going, and, we'll do $1 million in revenue this year.
Wow. So I mean, you've just touched upon the difficulty of getting, having a startup or running a startup, and I assume yours is a not-for-profit.
No, we're for purpose.
Oh, you're for, well, okay. Terminology is here. For purpose, not-for-profit means it's for purpose. Are you, like in our organization, ours is a not-for-profit for purpose, but we are PTY. We are limited, which means we are registered as a charity, but we are for purpose. We are still making profit, but the profit goes back into the organization. So is that what you're talking about when you're talking about for purpose?
No, I mean,
no, you're PTY Ltd.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
I mean, I don't think we have any desire to become a charity. You know, we give 70% of our revenue fees away. That's a big amount of money. That's a lot of money
Yeah, that's a lot of
to just
money. Yeah.
give
Why come up with such a huge figure?
because I like it. For me, my goal die before I die is $250 million to charity. That's my drive.
Wow.
I want to. As soon as I got to that number, I can die in peace.
Okay. Well, have you got? Is that a how long are you going to think you can achieve that before you
Oh,
achieve that?
look, you know what we're building in the background is really quite exciting, and I think the scale of this thing, what we're creating, is a platform that is globally scalable. We're just opening up the UK, we're just opening up Singapore, we're just opening up New Zealand, and I suspect as soon as we open up America, that $250 million can come within a couple of years. So
Absolutely.
I don't want to die that quickly yet. So I've got to slow it down a little bit.
Yeah, that's right. How was it to set up Meet Magic? Was obviously because it's a business. What was it like running a business that donates 70% of its revenue to a charity? Um,
It's hard. I
what
think
were the challenges and what were the hurdles?
I think the challenges was most of the challenges was convincing executives to give me their time. You know, and I think if you want to start a business that scales, find something that doesn't scale. Because if you can find something that scales, everybody will be doing it. But if you can find something that doesn't scale and find a way to make that work, typically you'll find that they become the biggest businesses on the planet. And I think, you know, if you look at Airbnb, nobody thought that would have scaled. In fact, everybody laughed at that business model when it first started. And the same thing was with us. You know, people look at us and go, "No, I'm not taking a meeting. That's a bribe. That's this. That's that." And I'm like, "No, it's not. I'm giving money away to charity. All you're doing is giving me your time. There's no obligation to do anything. Any business, it's just a connection, have a conversation." And those, when you're dancing as the only person on the hill doing that, it's hard. And that's the challenge, I think, you know, of starting anything. It's getting enough critical mass to a certain point where people go, "Okay, now, I sit at my desk and my phone rings and people want to give me their money." We've had 3 companies today that want to invest $20,000 each into our meetings. That's $60,000 in one day.
Mm.
That's called product to market fit. And to get to that product to market fit, it takes a lot of time, a lot of energy, and a lot of effort. And right now, most of our clients and the executives are telling the rest of the world about us, so we don't have to do that anymore. And
Mm.
that's I think the good thing.
So where to for Meet Magic? Obviously, you've got congratulations by the way for those 3 companies contacting you, and obviously you've got grand or big plans for Meet Magic.
Yeah, well, the platform that we're building, which it is the world's first global place for meetings. So we will become the place to go to for business meetings. So you can go to conferences.
So instead of Zoom meetings, instead of all of these Google Meets, you're going to go to
No,
Meet Magic.
no, you see, the challenge, is getting time in executives' diaries. That's the problem. Talk to anybody today. You can be the best salesperson on the planet, but if you can't get time in execs' diaries, you're not selling anything.
So you have to
And so
sell. So you reckon that you have to sell to senior executives? At what level are we talking about here?
CEOs, CIOs, CTOs.
The C
We talk
suites.
about the C-suite, the business leader C-suite. Yeah, I mean, for example, this morning we signed up 3 senior chief information security officers. One of them was from the biggest university in the country. That person is so over targeted from every cybersecurity vendor that he doesn't know whether he's coming or going. And so all of a sudden now he can come to us and he can sit down and know that that meeting is going to be highly curated and a valuable use of his time, and it's going to make a difference.
Mm.
So he gets to feel good about that, get an endorphin kick in his brain. And so as a result of those endorphins and feeling good, he now becomes a better business leader. He's more engaged at work. It's beautiful for everybody. There's no downside whatsoever to those meetings.
So do those senior executives get anything, or is this them giving their time to Meet Magic?
This is business as usual for them. They're taking those meetings anyway. There's no behavior change. So they're going to have these meetings. So the next time an executive, for example, gets a call from a salesperson for lunch to go, let's go to lunch and talk about business. Well, why don't you just take one of our meetings? The outcomes will be the same. You'll get to meet that vendor and that supplier, but some good will come out of it in the form of a donation to a charity. So that becomes, I mean, we've got executives now, some of them like Andrew Matazak. He's on about 10 meetings, I think he's done so far for us, and he's very, very senior. We've got Louise, who's the chief digital officer over at Macquarie Bank. I think he's done about 8 or 9 meetings. They just love the feeling. I think Anastasia Camarato, who's the chief information officer of consumer at Westpac,
Yeah.
I think she's done about 7 or 8. And they just come back because they feel good about doing these meetings. And there's no change in behavior for them. They sit down, have a conversation or a video call, and everybody wins.
Mm. God, as you're describing it, I'm just thinking of the lobbying firms that I know when they do this kind of lobbying with government agencies,
And
and
how do they charge?
and companies, they charge companies, and then they go and organize meetings with government agencies, or with other big corporations. So kind of you've kind of do something similar.
Well, think about this: the Austrades of the world, they will be charging $100,000 for someone to go overseas and have a few meetings and learn how to set up a business. The Israeli Chamber of Commerce just charged a client of mine $7,000 for 3 meetings. For 3 meetings, and those meetings were with consultants. They weren't with businesses. So there's a lot of money being spent on these introduction agencies. If you want to go and pay $10,000 to sit in the same room as I don't know, the Prime Minister of Australia at the Channel 9 function, well, it's the same thing. You're spending money to try and network to get close to those people. We're just saying go and have a conversation, and that's it. So it's working, and everybody seems to be happy about it.
So what has been some of the successes that you have created in facilitating some of these meetups? Are you going to show me a chart?
That's a $300,000 check to Starlight, and that will help 8,000 seriously ill children. That, for me, is the reason we do this business. The benefits of the companies and the suppliers coming to us, the CrowdStrikes of the world, the Googles, the Dells, the benefit that they get is that they get to come and meet with their target market and have a conversation. Off the back of those conversations, most of them have generated pipeline. We've had 7-figure deals done. So there's been at least one 7-figure deal that we know of that has been closed. And we had one client, which is a company called Informatica, big global company in data. They bought 10 meetings offers, and they've got $1 million in pipeline.
So we could buy some meetings off you then as well, Carl.
But the thing is, of course you can. But the thing is here, Di, we advocate that these meetings are not for selling. You don't go in there and pitch your product. You go in there and build a connection from the heart, and have a conversation. That is what's leading to business, not walking in and pitching some product or some features and benefits. And that's the new world.
Yeah, it's about connection. It's about building trust. It's about building that long-term relationship, which it's great. Look, it's great what you're doing. So look, last question before we wrap up. Sometimes I like to ask guests this. Sometimes, what would they like the world to remember them for? What do you think you would like the world to remember you for?
Look, I mean, I'm going to be known as, this is going to be my thing. I mean, I think when you talk about legacy, or my epitaph, if I actually wrote my epitaph a couple of years ago, and it's well, you have to, right?
I know. Look, don't worry. I live, but I've got one too, so don't worry. I've got one too.
People will remember me for literally changing the charity fundraising world and for helping millions and millions of kids. That's not a bad legacy.
No, definitely not. Look, thank you so much for your time, Carl. So how do you want, if you want to have a meeting, an executive meeting, how to have that conversation with the senior executive, Carl Gough from meetmagic can organize that for you. So thank you so much, Carl, for your time. And those who are listening, we will have Carl's details at the bottom of our podcast. Otherwise, if you know of any social change makers out there and they've got a great story to tell, please get in touch with us here at DAWNCast at dawn.org.au. And if you want to support us, please click on the bell button below, and we'd look forward to seeing you again. So once again, thank you, Carl, for your time, and see you around.
You
Pleasure.
better turn up. You better be there when I shake. Watch me rocking if I can.